My name is James and I work for MAF South Africa. And welcome to our next interview in our Round the World event. Today we have landed in the DRC and we will be speaking to Stephen, who is a program director in that country. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, James. Thank you.
Okay. Stephen, it has been said that MAF is different. Would you agree with the statement? And please tell us what your role is and what was it that first attracted you to serve with MAF?
Sure. Yes, is MAF different? I can say that MAF is quite a bit different than any other aviation service you might find around the world in terms of where we serve and who we serve, perhaps. In terms of the quality of our service and of course, the aviation standards that we maintain, that will be familiar to any pilot or technician, of course, that you encounter. But where we serve and who we serve is quite a bit different because we're in the hardest to reach places. Congo is the second largest rainforest in the world, and yet we have our airplanes out in the middle of that forest. So you're not going to find very many other operators there. We are also different in that of course, we approach all of our work from a Christian perspective. We all love the Lord, and we want to see His name known in these isolated places, and so that drives our reason for being here to begin with, and so again, that kind of sets us apart from other operators. I personally, I was first kind of attracted to MAF, I have to say, at a young age. I grew up as a child of missionary parents in West Africa. In fact, the boarding school I attended was in Bouaké, Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. And so many of my friends were the children of MAF pilots. So I knew of MAF as a young boy. And of course, I loved airplanes as well. And then in high school, I believe it was 10th grade, the Ivory Coast kind of fell into a civil war, and we were evacuated out of there partially by MAF aircraft. So I had a very personal experience at a young age with MAF, and then that left quite an impression on me, of course, getting out of that war zone on an MAF airplane. But then on top of that, returning to the United States, following that evacuation, that's when I began my pilot journey, so to speak, and I actually started my flight training at about the age of 15 after that evacuation. When we came back to Africa just about a year later, just to finish high school, that's when the Lord really turned a light bulb on in my head to connect the aviation that I was so passionate about and had already started learning with the mission work that was happening through MAF. Because this time when I came back to Africa, I actually understood what MAF was able to accomplish with the airplanes, that they weren't just another airline out there, but they were actually an aviation operator serving missionaries and churches all around the world. And ever since then, I wanted to be a part of it. So that's a brief history on how I became involved with MAF.
Thank you, Stephen. It's a truly wonderful story. What would you say are the most exciting aspects of your service in the DRC, and what would you say most challenges and inspires you?
Yeah, it's the flying is certainly exciting. It's not like anything I ever experienced when I was flying in the United States. Coming out here and flying into these remote airstrips, it's unique, and it's also fun, and you get to probably see things and do things that many pilots will never experience in their lifetimes. Whether it's a remote airstrip, a short airstrip, an airstrip on the side of a mountain somewhere. Yeah, those are all great experiences. Most exciting, though, for me personally, has been landing in these remote places and then seeing the people there on the ground that absolutely depend on the airplane being there. The rush of excitement, just the joy and the celebration of having this contact with the outside world, so to speak, that brings a great deal more excitement, and probably more than I anticipated. Of course, when I moved over here, I didn't really have a good context to understand it, but it is very exciting to join in that with people on the ground in some of these remote places, when you begin to understand that because the airplane is there, they're either receiving Bible teaching for the first time or in a long time, or maybe it's missionaries that come and go regularly, but it's the only opportunity they have to get in and out. Maybe you're bringing medical supplies, maybe you're bringing food, maybe you're bringing doctors. I don't know what the case may be, but it is always a celebration, because otherwise it would be very difficult or impossible for these things to happen in those places. So very exciting to participate in that with the people on the ground. What has been challenging for me, again, I could say, the flying, as exciting as it is, it's also challenging. You're going into some unique areas as a pilot, and MAF does a fantastic job of training us and preparing us for that as pilots. It's a challenge. It's also fun. I think what caught me off guard, perhaps, particularly here in Congo, was the challenge of living in and making my community with people that have had a very difficult history. It really caught me off guard. If you go back to the late 1800s and early 1900s, when Congo was essentially a fiefdom under King Leopold in Belgium, and then on to it kind of transformed into a colony, and then from that you had a series of civil wars and dictatorships, and now we're really in the last few years. I would say in the last 10 years, in a period of more stability, at least in the western side of the country here in Kinshasa. But these people have been through a lot and have lived through a lot, and yet they continue to move forward in their lives, and they continue to make do and just carry on. And it's quite a challenge when perhaps we take a lot of those things for granted ourselves. I remember one of my first, it was like a Wednesday morning devotional with our staff here at the hangar. This was about 6 years ago. I sat down and they asked me to share a testimony, the new pilot. And I said, okay, well, let me just tell you a little bit about what the Lord has laid on my heart. And of course, what he had laid on my heart was a little bit of what I'm telling you, just the sheer, the poverty that you see around you, the hardship that you see around you, all of these things. I said, it is incredible that you are as a people continuing to trust in the Lord and work through these things, together and with hope for the future. It's just, I'm very humbled by that. And I appreciate that you don't put your confidence in these material things. The response that I got to that was from one of the leaders and the national staff after the devotional. He came to me and said, "Stephen, what you said was good. We understand it. We understand where you're coming from, but you have to know that our situation, where we are, especially as Congolese people, the church told us in the 20s, in the 30s, in the 40s, in the 50s, not to believe, not to put our faith in material things. This is not a new message. We've had this message all along. But the church and the countries they represented took all of our material things. They pillaged this country. They said, you don't need them, we'll take them." And that's the message that we heard from the church. That actually spoke louder than their words. It kind of left me a little floored. I was like, wow, what a difficult testimony, difficult witness to try to wrestle with, and understanding that that's been part of their history and part of their perspective. And for me to come in and say, wow, you guys are doing so good not to trust in your material things. And they're saying, yeah, we've heard that before. So wrestling with that and still trying to give people hope through Christ, with a genuine care for their spiritual well-being and their physical well-being. And that's part of what MAF does so well. We play both roles. We bring, whether it's spiritual healing through, transporting missionaries and pastors, and I think the physical side, that really tangible physical care through medical services, medicines, vaccines, doctors, whatever it is. I think that is so integral to bringing a complete picture of the gospel, where Jesus cares for the whole person. Anyway, it's been a challenge for me, but I'm learning about it. Sorry, it's a long answer to your question.
That's a wonderful and a truly inspiring answer, Stephen. Based on your experiences with MAF in DRC, what advice would you give to someone who feels called to serve in a MAF mission?
Yeah. If I could, just thinking of my own experience, and all of the ways in which the Lord worked in my life, and also my wife in her lives. I mean, coming here was a joint calling and a joint decision between husband and wife for us to come together. I think the Lord had put a call on both of our lives. I would tell myself, and I would tell anyone else that is preparing to come with MAF or feels called to come with MAF, to double down, so to speak, in your walk with the Lord. Do not let your spiritual habits, your time in the Word, your passion for the Word, and even your pursuit of learning more about the Bible and God and Jesus, don't let that take a backseat to all of the technical preparations that come your way, because you will obviously have to be getting ready for pilot training, mechanic training, maybe if you're going into another role, whether it's finance or IT, because there's a number of things that go into having a successful MAF operation. It's not all pilots and mechanics. And it can be very easy to get absorbed into that preparation and kind of let the spiritual side subside, so to speak. But this is an area that I wish I had continued to pour into with as much preparation and girding up as I had perhaps those other aspects, the technical qualities that I was training for. So again, that's maybe more of a and that's an advice that's not unique to MAF. I would say that's true wherever you are, and it's something that I'm certainly trying to apply now in my life. But that's probably where I would start.
Great, Stephen. Thank you so much for that. That's really the end of our interview, and thank you for all those who joined us. And we hope that this has truly inspired those who are thinking of joining a MAF mission. And thank you, Stephen, and God bless.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.